All right, welcome. Thank you for spending the next 45 minutes with me, particularly after we had a lovely opening session with Vanessa this morning on AI. I'm going to take it a little bit further into looking at it for your businesses. So there is a difference, you'll be glad to know. So I hope you can sit back and enjoy, and obviously I am here for any other questions. Just quickly, if you don't know me, I'm Wendy McDougall. I am CEO or Chief Fish of Firefish Software, and we have been, obviously as a tech vendor, CRM system to the recruitment industry, all over AI, thinking about me putting myself into your shoes. What do you need in your tech? And also, from a speaking point of view, I like to try and take the complex, simplify it, and practically think about how you're going to put it into your businesses. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay. So let's look at recruitment. And I think there are a few people here that are coming up for their 30th birthday in recruitment. But it used to be old school, over in the sort of right-hand side here, and it has definitely, if you walk into a recruitment agency or a recruitment team right now and have a look around, it's definitely changed, hasn't it? Now, I'm not sure if it's maybe changed for the better or for the worse, all right? Or could it be that it's a mixture of both? And that's what we're going to explore today as well. Now, personally, I know which one I had most fun with. They were very much the good days. You know, some of the younger recruiters are really smart, but maybe lacking some of that fun element. So maybe we also have lost something in the industry that we need to re-enhance as well. But I think we do have to recognise there's definitely a different method in how we recruit and how we're going to use those tools to get better. A lot like Vanessa was saying. The problem we've got though, if we recognise that the environments look very different, are we still kind of running our businesses in the same way with the same KPIs, the same targets, etc.? And I would argue that I'm still having a lot of talks and a lot of discussion with business owners and solo recruiters that are still trying to model, hey, am I making the right sort of calls and numbers of calls? What sort of meetings levels should I be doing, etc.? You know, if I want to grow, I should really then look at building on and putting on a new head count, because that's how I'll then increase my, turnover by another 150k. We're still thinking very much in the same way, but recognising it looks different, right? That's quite a fundamental shift that we perhaps haven't sort of made in our businesses. And another question I just want you to sort of take the time to think about as well is, and the lady of the moment over there, Vanessa, just walking in, Vanessa and I, 3 years ago, when chat, it was actually 3.5 years ago, when chat sort of really launched and everybody was like, okay, what is this new tool? We were doing our first podcast, figuring all this out. It has been 3.5 years, all right, that these tools have now been available and moving at lightning speed. So has your business changed, or how you're recruiting in the last 3.5 years, all right? Because that's how far we've come now with the tools that are out there. Now, those businesses have also been built on this organisational design. Anybody that did business after school, etc., have done any courses, this is how you build a business. And in recruitment companies, in terms of recruitifying it, which is what we like to do, you get recruiters, you get resources, you now then get more of recruiters and resources, so you then recognise that that is slightly different, because we now need people that can actually go and get new business. And we might have to have an insight or on-site team now. We might have to have key accounts. That's slightly different again, different types of skills. So we'll build an on-site key account team, and that's how we'll build that. Oh, hang on a minute, we've got quite a few people here. We're now going to need a manager to now manage all those people and make sure that people aren't off sick and holidays and things are covered and people are then delivering that service. And then as you do grow, and I appreciate that we're still, we have quite a lot of small businesses here as well, but as you are growing, you then have departments. And then you think, okay, hang on a minute, this sector hasn't been performing quite as well as other sectors. We need to diversify, so let's go and open up another one to then protect margins. So if one sector is doing well, the other one isn't. That's how we've been thinking in the last 10, 15 years about growing a recruitment agency. But AI really has now flipped this on the head, and we need to think about even how we scale our businesses very differently. And we can see all the big guys that have had to solve all those problems are hugely suffering, right? Big loss because they are big. They can't change quickly. They're not agile enough, not like you all are. This is the time where you can make the changes far better than them. They have real problems because they've got all those layers that they've got to work out. Do they still need them? How do they deal with it? What does that mean? Gosh, HR are going to have to get involved. You know, the smaller, more niche agencies here have got a huge opportunity to take market share right now. And with the companies that we're seeing really performing are grasping this now, okay? Because they're getting themselves organised really quickly and being able to then go and move quicker than these guys are. This is your time for the small, medium-sized businesses to perform. The new operating model that we now have to address in our business is the single person operating model that is orchestrating lots of AI tools, lots of AI businesses, and we've got to decide how we bring that into a solo desk or our businesses in terms of the number of recruiters and how they're all operating. So let's have a little think about this, and I thought this was really good. I got it from hung in the Business Brain Food. It's a really nice wee video that starts to just sort of open your eyes as to how business workflows, and that's a key theme that we're going to really hear. I'm going to be talking about it in the next year and a half again, is workflow. Not really AI, it's bringing the AI into your workflows, and how this is actually really changing how we're doing work.
Person will be able to do what used to require a team of 10 people. I'm watching it happen right now with my own eyes. Solo founders running $1 million agencies. One single designer replacing entire creative departments. Individual developers shipping products that used to need entire development teams. And still, most people do not see it because it doesn't look dramatic. It looks like a few AI tools here, a few automations there, and just a sprinkle of a few AI assistants. But if you zoom out, it's a lot bigger than that. It's happening right now. The one-person company is not a motivational concept anymore. It's becoming the default operating model. And that changes everything because if one single person can produce the output of 10 people, the real competition stops being who has the biggest team and it changes into who has the biggest leverage. And the winners will not be the companies who have the most employees. They'll be the people who know how to orchestrate AI like a workforce. So what is the one-person company era? Why it's coming way faster than most people think? What kind of businesses will explode because of it? And it's the exact skill that separates the people who will win in 2026 from the people who will get overwhelmed.
That's exciting for team, isn't it? All right? Because you are a bunch of individual, small team businesses that can be nimble, you can adopt, you can move faster, and you can work with one another, creating the one-person orchestrated company. And you can think about this within your own businesses, or you can think about this as each of these people and your solo entrepreneurs as well are team members. All right? So if you start to take that thought and take it into your business as to where the direction that you would then have of the one person with everybody doing the business, not just building a human person for each part of the workflow. So let's think about that. And this is a little bit of the traditional sense of workflows now. So we've thought about the business in terms of how you grow it around people. Now we're going to think about it more from a workflow point of view. So let's face it, the recruitment, just like what we did 30 years ago to now, hasn't changed. We get candidates, we get clients, and we make a good match, right? There's a lot of stuff we do in the middle, but that is effectively what recruitment is. And that recruitment business workflow that we have in a very simplified way is we create demand, excuse me, that's generally through our website or through our content or through our brand. We create some sales assets that build that up. We then prompt for an in-person meeting where you as the human can interact. And then we get a triggered moment that there's some interest there, that we either create it into a lead, we reach out, and we get a job. So we've gone all the way up here and we've been successful, and we're going in that figure of 8. We get the job on, we get the job requirements, we do the candidate assessment, we then make sure that they're legal to work, we get their offer. Offer negotiation is something that is really valuable from a recruiter's perspective. You always have more insight to how that candidate is thinking than the end client. The end client only knows about their job that they're offering. The recruiter will always know, or should do if you're good, about everything that that candidate's got on their plate at that time. So that is a very valuable and under-commoditized area of the recruitment process. And hopefully we make a placement. Now, depending on your client, it could be volume, so that's great. You keep going round that circle and it becomes either an in-house service, an RPO, a key account for that, or it has to go into account management process and we get that followed, or that follow-up. So you've got your scheduled touch point, you do your account reviews, and again, if that drops off because they haven't hired in a number of years, you've got to then go into the most cost-effective way of managing that key account. It becomes maybe a tier 3, and it goes into creating demand again. So you've got that set up that gives you another triggered moment. Or you've got an account review, and we take them back up in terms of then going through, we then reach out, we then create a placement, or we create a job to end with a placement, okay? That is what you should all have as your business operating model. Okay, how you split that operating model will then need a large amount of workflow in each, and how you do that in each particular area. So if it's looking for triggered moments, if it's handling lead management, each of them needs to be written down and understood as a complete unit of work. So as we've then developed within our businesses, we've either had one person doing all of that as a solo entrepreneur, it's a lot, I get it. Or we've grown, as we've said, with people doing bits, okay? So we've either outsourced for specialists to do our SEO, or now our AEO or a GEO, because that's getting even more complicated on the website in terms of optimizing for LLMs. All these three words acronyms, I tell you, as a dyslexic, it's an absolute freaking nightmare. I mean, I've still got trouble with AWRERW. I still don't know which one it is. So. And I've been working with it for how many years, honestly. But you get people in each of all the different areas. And then what we've moved on is what's called an AI automation phase, okay? So let's think about what was AI automation, because I think it's really important that you start to understand the journey of the sort of phrases that's coming out, because sometimes it can all get a wee bit sort of mixed up there, and just demystifying what we're actually all meaning from a vendor's point of view, or a sort of business sort of guru out there telling us what we should be doing. So it's looking at AI automation is basically saying we still get the same humans, but we feel quite comfortable that we've got an AI, or we've got something, automation, helping us to do something. All right, so let's take a moment just to sort of get an example of that. When ChatGPT first came out, who's brave enough to put up their hand and say, how did they start using it? Great, awesome. Yeah.
Like a easier Google.
Exactly, sort of write content, or was it asking questions for something? Questions, great, excellent. And then content, both of those. Okay, awesome. Who else? Yeah. Perfect, right? So these are great, three great edge cases, as we would say, or use cases, not edge cases, that we would turn around and say, we were happy, we were in control, we were looking at using it as a tool to automate something and get faster, but we're in total control, all right? AI automation, you are starting to automate something and get quicker at it, all right? And that's the biggest area that a lot of people have been in to make that productivity gain, okay? And it's all been super helpful. Next, we move to the AI hybrid, all right? That's what that's been calling now. So an AI hybrid is saying, okay, well, you know what? Part of this process, I was quite happy that I was telling it how to, could you check this email? Could you write that email? But I actually now feel comfortable that I'm going to actually just say, hey, AI, can you just take my emails and do responses for me? So I've outsourced that particular part of my working day, my workflow, and I've said the AI can take over on that without me telling it what to do. Okay, big difference. Is anybody here thinking that they have done that in a part of their business and is willing to share? No. Okay. Oh, got 2. Excellent. On you go, both of them.
I've not done that, but I've had plenty of conversations recently about the data breach of doing that. So plugging some form of AI to be able to access emails to then respond to them, which it just, from a knowledge perspective, I'm absent in terms of knowing really what's right or wrong with doing that.
Great example, and I'm not going to answer it directly right now because that's a fear that's come up with potentially doing that, all right? So I'm going to come back to that if that's okay. And just beside you, do you have an example of how you're using that? Or how you're using anything else as a hybrid? I think both of you put up your hands.
I mean, I would say what I do use, Claude is my go-to.
Yeah.
I've trained its personality in the background, so it's starting to be really helpful when I say, I've got this today, can you come up with a plan? And it will basically formulate emails, it will formulate responses, it will come up with a complete day plan. So it's really, it's starting to really work and help me as a solo.
Great, so I love that example as you're in control and you've automated now getting your plan, but you're telling it what to do, all right? Which is good. And as you get more comfortable with that, as you've just been saying, you may start, depending on your allocation of what is risky, what is not, where are all the things that could go wrong and how do you feel about it, you'll decide whether or not you take some of those into being a triggered moment, all right? Did you have another example?
I tend to use on two different occasions. One, when I've had so many candidates come through, criteria and then filtering it on all the candidates into a bag. That's been really useful to go to the ones that bring and speak to them first.
Yep.
And then there was the second, doing candidates, doing market research on new roles which come out.
Great.
To give back to the client.
Great, and I'm just going to sort of say exactly what Vanessa said. Obviously, we're going to assume all paid account, all security bases, but using the examples because that's what I want to focus on just now. And I would say that's great because exactly the same, you are then taking something, you're saying, here's this, can you go and match and tell me something, all right? So you're automating that process again as well. So let me give you some a little bit examples of where this could now start. And it was really 2 great examples because you have been analysing how you feel about which one you would outsource, all right? I'll tell you what I don't mind doing is see my website for my SEO, my AOE, my AEO, right? So that's basically saying, hey, how's my website performing and how's my content looking in order to get the most traffic? Do I mind plugging in something just to do that for me every day? I feel cool about that, all right? And that's the difference, right? So you guys have gone straight to stuff that could be a bit grey, so you're not quite sure, so you're still in control. I like that, all right? But there are other things that we could actually decide, what bits, could I then actually go and take away and actually do that, all right? My sales assets, okay? So if you've got a prompt that's coming in and ultimately saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for in a discovery call, that's automatically listened to, put into your CRM, and it comes up and says, here is the bespoke proposal already written based on your structure. Would you feel comfortable about it just doing that and sending it out as a follow-up? I think we're starting to get there in some companies. All right? So it's about things here that are perhaps not getting right now into the grey areas that we go, oh, not quite sure, that we can actually be more productive to achieve that single point of operating, single man orchestration of all the agents. And that's where I think the market's starting to go in the most successful businesses that I'm seeing. However, you will also you will be getting LinkedIn emails about, hey, you need to now be AI first. All right, what the hell is that? That's what I'm getting lots of questions about now, right? So let's look at what really AI first is. Right, let me get some words. Shout up some words that when you look at that, how do you feel?
Scared.
Yep, scared, great word. Who else? Overwhelmed, great word.
Unavailable
Excited. Great. You were on the different side of the bus when Vanessa was looking at you, so brilliant. All right. Excited. Anybody else? Luddite. Considering we couldn't get a selfie together. Yeah, I get you. Anybody else? Cautious. Really, really, really good words here, because do you know what you're doing? Just now you're analysing what parts of the process have you got trust, and what parts do you not want to trust AI to do? And that's right now where you are. There is no wrong or right move to going AI first with all of that, but AI first really means that you're not in control of the AI is doing that thought process for you. Now, let's take that a little bit step, because it could sound great, right? But if we're all just going to go and plug in an AI first tech to our businesses, what's going to happen? You got it. We're all going to be the same. Do we really want to shrink our agencies, our agency and our industry right down to that? Right? Because the real value here is actually about identifying your value. Now, I'm going to use you if you don't mind. What's your name, sorry? Simon. Great, Simon, right? I'm going to use you here, if that's okay, and John over here is the other side of the bus, okay? If you don't mind John as well. I didn't say that. I did not say that. They're going like the Luddite side. All right, now, if I'm Simon and I'm going in to sell to a client, I am going to dazzle them. I am going to say, listen, don't you worry, I've got all of this. I will be able to screen this. I will be able to check this out, and I'll be able to do it in half an hour of getting your job spec. Ooh, nailed it. And then I'll send you a fee for the pleasure, right? Now, with the right client, they're going to go, I love it. Can you tell me how to do it? Can you tell me how to do that? I want to learn for that. You've got my fee because, John, you've been doing this with me for a long time. What's new about your process? Anything? You come up with anything? I'm hearing like everybody's like AI first now. I think I should be doing some AI first things. Are you doing anything with AI? Okay, right. Well, do you know what? I'm quite excited about this over here. So I know I've been dealing with you for like 30 years and you've been really good, and I do like you, and this is nothing about our relationship. It's all right, okay? It is me, not you, all right? Simon, we are so on. You tell me how to do this, I'm all up for it, because this is going to get me a promotion. That is the difference of what's happening with your clients right now as well. And that is okay, because you know what? Unfortunately, with your methodology of how you're approaching things, you're going to be the fallback guy again. They're going to boomerang round to you, okay? Potentially, okay? Unless Simon really blows them away, okay? But that is the risk. Because some of your clients with a different appetite to how they feel about this process are going to want to go there. And you're either going to have to swap over to this side of the bus or stay on that side of the bus and go and find other clients, because there's going to be loads of them out there still that do not trust any of this. You know, they're going to say, well, where's your data going? Are you sure? Where's the security in that? Do you really want that? And do you think, you know, those candidates that the AI is screening, I mean, their CV's just been written by ChatGPT. How do you know that they really are a real candidate? John knows, because he's met them. Simon has totally screened them and has a full history of their background, has done a sort of check verification on where they were born and what time they were born, but it's all through verification through AI. And that also, right now, is creating what in the market? Bang on. What does confusion mean as an opportunity? Money. Right? It means money in our eyes. It means money from a recruitment perspective, because we can be the savior to try and understand both sides of the camp and also make money on helping with that confusion with our clients, saving the relationship. All right? It does work though. Simon's side of it being excited, you know, I was talking to one client, I don't know if anybody's heard of Jack and Jill. Yeah, right. So Jack and Jill tech out there that basically will go through, it's really good for, well, it says it's really good for volume hiring. So effectively you could put in like, you know, say you've got 300 candidates coming through, Jack and Jill calls them, screens them, you know, basically source them, tell them, does the rag list, etc., and gets them the shortlist. Had an agency that I was talking to on Tuesday up against this, and he said, okay, fine, you know, I'm going to tell you it's not going to get you the right results, etc. It's not great, etc. Called him up 2 weeks later. How did you get on with that Jack and Jill thing? Actually, these are the two candidates that I was going forward. Do you know what? The two candidates that Jack and Jill had screened, he had them both in his database, and he had one of them that he thought he was going to be putting them forward. So it did work. And that's the challenge that you're going to have to take and you're going to have to be aware of, because some of these tools are getting really smart and they are starting to work. All right? Okay, thank you for participating in all that, because that really helps. But this here is saying that this is not right, this is not wrong. But what you've now got to be moving on in your businesses is accepting that AI is out there for tools. We're all there. In terms of our automation, we're all starting to learn. It has moved to the more successful businesses are doing this and being much more productive in order to achieve this type of model, which actually none of you said very cost effective, because let's face it, it could be cost effective, this one, without having 10 people and you've only got one person doing that task. All right, that is a reality. Okay? But you've then got to decide which parts of the process are going to become your brand that you keep hold of and you're human, and that's the value, and that's what you're going to sell. Okay? Another customer that basically, now I'll be honest, I was quite surprised when I was talking to them, because one part of their process that they are not going to automate, which is to me kind of a bit of a easy part of the process, is the registration process. All right, that is a capture information to me in an unstructured or structured way. We can now make that into a structured process and we can verify that information, and we then populate it straight into your CRM, so it saves hours. It's like a really good tool, and it's one that I feel is quite safe to automate. But he has developed, or it's a company, 15-man company. They have put an awful lot of time into this book that they do. It is lower volume sort of trades that they do, and they decide that some of them don't have CVs, so they're going to get them to go through. They bring them in, they get them through and filling this out in front of them, and then it gets passed by a director or manager to check that that is okay, and then it gets typed into the CRM, right? Now for me, I'm like, come on, we can do better than this. However, to be fair to him, that's what he sells, right? And he is quite happy to go say, that's fine, you go try, right? But see, when you've got a problem and somebody's on there and it hasn't been checked correctly or something's happened, you're going to come back to me, because I will give you that personal verification that we will meet, we will see, and we will verify from a human point of view that this person is legit, and get them on site, right? And good on him, right? So he's buying everything else, but not that part. That's fine, right? And he will go and he will make his sales assets around that part that he protects, all right? And I think it's a good explanation of what I'm saying. Pick the parts that's going to make you different of the workflow, and which parts you're going to automate and which ones you're going to protect, and then sell the shit out of that to your clients, all right? The next part is when you've then decided which bits you're going to then automate, or you're going to then allow in for the AI to take over and embed into your workflow. This is not just about going straight in here and doing what we're so good at, which is the magpie scenario of buying tech. This will be fine, we'll buy the tech. I mean, how many people have bought some tech out here and actually are still not using it? Right, it's a really common thing in our industry, right? You go see shiny, let's do it. First few months, great. A bit like a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend, and then you think, really, what value am I getting from this? And then you don't renew, right? This is what's happening just now, is that the new guys coming out and the new tools and the vibe codes and everything else that's coming in for this new bit of kit, and you're going, that's great, we'll put it in here. But you don't actually look at the rest of your house around this. And I know this is weird from a tech vendor, I should be encouraging you all to do this, but there's no point. You won't use it and get the best out of the tech that you're buying. You need to start by, as I said, identify your value. What is your business and digital roadmap? Next, remember that video that I showed there earlier? Some of your staff, some of your employees, some of your partners that you might be working with right now might not be aligned with the way that you're now doing things, all right? Because you're starting to change your business. So you've actually got to decide, are the talent and the skills that you're using and you're coordinating with in your business, are they right? Are they going to be the right people for you to go on with? Because some of them won't make it, I'm afraid. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they're wrong either. It's just that the home for them is not with you in the next part of your journey. Then reimagine and visualize what is your new operating model, and then get the tech around that. All right? Because that is the problem. People just go, I want AI. What do you want in AI? I just want AI. Like, come on, let's think about what are you trying to achieve, what's the output, what's the delivery, and then the technology vendor, if they're good, will turn around and say, we can do that really well, but actually we're not the right for there, or this is going to be better with a third party, like device coming in for this particular piece, etc. onto it. Data, 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 data. I have been going on about the fact that a recruitment business has always been a data company. It is absolutely now. Where we're thinking about things is, you're actually not going to be thinking about going to an LLM anymore. We're going to hopefully turn your businesses into an LLM, all right? Thinking about that data, but it's not going to make any point, or it's not going to be useful for you if the data is not actually relevant. So thinking about capturing that data, keeping it engaged, get rid of the rubbish in there as well, and make that part of your workflow. And then the change management. When you bring it in, it's all about that adoption. Okay, so if you do buy any tools, you see anything you want to go and enhance your business with, think about how are you going to adopt it? Who's going to help you? What do you need to change in your workflow? Write it down and then say, right, it's going to take me 5 steps here. I'm going to take that into 2 steps with this. But at least then you're working that 2 steps into the bigger process. Okay. So my 6 steps to basically making sure that anything you do with AI and tech within your businesses is right now, document what you're trying to achieve. 2, we're doing some of that, really glad to hear. Eliminate the low value admin, all right? As Vanessa said as well, we do not like, and we never really went into a recruitment job to do admin. Centralize the data. It's all very well looking at lots of different tools out there that can do things, but if it's not coming back into your CRM, and I'm not just saying that because I am a CRM, it is really pointless because you're not going to get the end value from it, okay? So you need to be pulling that data in so that you've got, when you are doing your search, you're creating your own knowledge bank of yourself for your business, your niche, because that is value, okay? Identify where the value is in your business. That's a bit where you're looking at your marketing, your branding, your side, and what you're still going to be offering. Do you have the right people or the culture in order to make those changes? I will be honest here. We've got a retreat every year. I take the company away, and we're just about to go next week to our retreat. And last year, I wasn't happy with my own business. And I was looking at my business. We had about 70 employees at that time, and I went, these guys are not moving fast enough for me. And I need to be honest with them. So I said, listen, this is a responsibility of us as a company, but this one right now is also on you as employees. Because if you're not curious, if you're not up for change, I'm going to be running and you're not going to keep up, all right? So start running. And if you're not wanting to run, get out, okay? And that's kind of what we've had to do in order to make sure that we're still relevant and we're going in the right direction. And this period of time is the biggest business transformation that you and your clients are going through. And these are the sort of decisions that they've got to make. Keep the human element. So important. Let's not lose sight of everything. We are in a people business, and that is what's going to make it very different to your clients. Your clients have bigger budgets than you. They're going to be able to, they are going to be able to spend more on tech than you will ever be able to spend. So how are you going to be able to fight your clients with tech? All right? So that for me is the biggest thing, is keep it human, keep the human element. I'm not going to spend too much on this, but these are just the practical things that you should be almost like a wee bit of a tick box in my view. You know, we've talked about job specs, we've talked about advert, we've talked about marketing. Remember, you are the context, you are the direction, but you're getting this out of your business. The candidate attraction, one post, one advert, one broadcasting. You know, you don't need to do something that is repeatable, needs to be out. It's not going to be a job anymore forward, or as you move forward, and it's got to be something that you save time on. Your CV parsing, your candidate skills extraction, you know, you just basically drag a CV now in of unstructured data, and the tech, if it's any good, will structure all of that. And then you've got that old school methodology of being able to look at, you know how we used to take in a CV and say there's at least 10 leads in every CV? Yeah? So you parse the CV, you basically get all their companies, you see if there's, you know, these guys have been temping with what agency there, okay, and these guys have been just, they're looking to move, so there's something going on there. If it's not, that company's not in the database, it will show you, click a button, create it, create a lead, go target it. That should all just be happening in a workflow. Okay, dead easy. And that old school methodology, 10 leads in a CV, happens now within like 10 minutes as soon as you put that candidate in, and it matches all the jobs and it matches all the content or the contacts to it that you've looked at that could spec out. Spec out, formatted CV, contact matches, automatic alerts. Conversations, meetings, calls, transcripts, we've talked about that a lot, super helpful. You know, everything that you've got is your note takers, etc., coming in, summarising it. And another little tip I've got as well is that this can be your biggest coach. Right? Who's got a difficult client? Pretty safe in saying you all have, right? Well, so do we. We deal with recruiters. So anytime I have to deal with my difficult, but very important client, I'm getting the transcript, I'm putting in of the meeting, I'm saying, how did I perform? What could I have done better? Why did the client react to that comment? What was she trying to say? Because also my difficult client, in my view, could be different, could be wrong. I don't think they're very good at articulating what they need and what their problem is. So it's like a bit of a guesswork there. LLMs are great at that guesswork there of trying to give you a sentiment of what's happening. You know, how did that call finish? How have I left it? I've learned so much from that. And another little trick is, yes, your LLMs are learning from you, but actually they don't learn in each individual chat unless you instruct them to remember something. So in each individual chat, you know, change the header, you know, and put it in, and this is all paid channels that you've got securely locked down, but change the header to that particular client because that is where they're learning in that chat. But if you start a new one with a new transcript, then you're starting again, right? So that's also a nice little tip as well. Reporting, forecasting, no more Excels, right? I'm still on that mission. If you're using Excel, why? Let's get rid of it. I can see Beth smiling. She knows that was one that we worked with lots of clients with. Let's find the Excels and eradicate them all because, you know, it's just time and admin that can be repeated and automated very easily. AI downfalls. And this is where a lot of your examples that you were giving me there earlier in terms of trust, right? And I just wanted to bring you up with what's happening with the big LLMs just now as well. Security, right? Now, I don't, you know, we're now, 16 years old, so we know these recruitment workflows inside out, and I pay a vast amount of money every year to go and get people to hack my tech, third parties to come and try and hack my tech and see if they can get in, can they do any damage, in order to make sure that we're protected for you, all right? We do that internally, we do that externally. I do not get asked enough about that from recruitment companies as to how do we secure and make sure that your data is secure. Could you imagine that and you're hearing about them all the time, right? Because just as AI is helping us to be more productive, you know who is also helping? You know, everybody in cyber criminals and cyber security. It's just they're weaponizing tools in a different way to go and get your data, right? Think about your data. You are tier 1 data. You have the most personal data and complete historical count of all of your candidates. So could you imagine having to go out to your database because you've had a breach? because the technology has, unfortunately, and it may be what's called like a 0-day breach, and the technology didn't even know it was there, and they've got in, and this is what you've had to do, right? Now, that is a vendor, that's us, like 16 years, and we get that externally. It costs me like 20k a year. You know, it's a substantial investment that we've got to do. But see all of these vibe codes, and I appreciate Vanessa, and apologies for this, because I know you'd said go try vibe codes, but I'm a wee bit cautious with all this, because, you know, I'm getting also, hey, can we integrate with Firefish, please? And I'm like, all right, okay, how long have you been going? Oh yeah, I know you're a technology person. No, I just vibe coded this in one of the LLMs, and I think it'd be really cool if it could integrate with a CRM. I'm like, oh, you know, because who's checking that to make sure that what you're doing here is you're just opening up a window into your main data source that something can travel in and out. Right, so be really, really careful, and start also asking, where's your latest pen test? That's what it's called, all right? Anything that you're using, where's your latest pen test? Could I see? What's your compliance hub? Can I get to see everything you do in terms of disaster recovery? What happens? How do you support me? It will happen, right? We will have data breaches. It's going to just now become something that unfortunately is going to happen in the market. So be prepared with it and make sure that it's not happening every week for you. Compliance and AI regulations. Okay, you'll see that their cases are coming. I'm just going to finish up on this, so it's just another 5 minutes or 4 minutes. You will see that, and this is going to change your world here as an agency for the better. Because there's case law coming out here on the AI that the talent acquisition guys have been sort of taking, because their biggest problem has been, help me with screening. Can you just close the door for like 4 minutes? Thanks, Louise. It's quite important, this stuff. I've got 3 minutes. Thanks. Okay. The security and the compliance of what's happening now, you effectively have a lot of case law that's happening, and because people are getting effectively rejected within like 6 minutes of their application with no real reason, they are now taking this to court, and there will be cases in there, and the technology right now is already having to move and check. They have been told AI has now gone beyond EU regulations. The AI is making a decision on whether or not that person is right for that job or not. And that is breaking their EU regulations, that is breaking their, and Paul will probably know more about this, but that is breaking their sort of guide on that. Now, the American side is a little bit further out, but it's starting to come through there, and unfortunately, obviously, our UK government can't make a decision to anything, so we are struggling with making some sort of guidance on that, but that's why I'm not going into that area, because it's very grey, it's a minefield, and you're going to have to change the way you're doing it. Now, that is great for recruiters, because guess what? You will, in the majority, screen your candidates yourself, all right? So that's going to hit them in the next 6 to 8 months. They're going to have to change. Next one, future cost structure, really interesting. Of the 5 main LLMs that are then coming out, next year that are there, and obviously in our worlds, 3 of them have to go for funding, and they've got to get billions. You know, right now, you know, if Anthropic Claude doesn't get their funding, you know, they're going to take Oracle down right now, because Oracle's in with them, and they're in with them for the data centers that they've got to build. It's that level of funding that they're, you know, up against just now that's happening in America. Now, all of them are not making money. And actually, the truth is, all of them don't quite know how to make money. They don't quite know how to charge for the tokens, the usage, what their model is. You've got ChatGPT still in a fixed amount, but they're not making any money, because actually the cost of using it has gone up. So how much are we willing to pay? Where you've got Claude, you've seen sort of, I don't know if you've seen any of the articles out just now, you know, big companies have gone through all their Claude tokens 4 months into the whole year. So actually, some of the cost might not now be cheaper than human. And where I would be sitting in here just now is, if you went AI first all tech and they've got a new pricing structure, be very wary, because that is just going to go up. Okay? And there's got to be a lot of sorting that out just now in terms of how, because anything that's put onto us as tech vendors, we've got to then go and put it onto you as the end client. Just like NI goes up in your PAYE, you've got to put it onto your end client.
Missing features and integration, it's dead. It is actually really easy now to go, and if you know a little bit about what you're doing from a dev, you can go in and you can, as Vanessa said, you know, get an application up and running, right? But that application kind of looks good, the UI looks good, because essentially it's start again from scratch, but it doesn't have depth, right? So just be careful with when, again, you're buying tech, that it can do everything you need it to do, because, you know, 16 years of working out every single, you know, little bit of, you know, like, for example, I mean, Bullhorn can't even do retainers, let's face it, right? How many years have they been in, you know, they've been in business just now, and they can't do that, or do a recurring sort of, you know, you've got to create a new job and stuff. Now, if that's them, that sort of recruitment methodology of some of the sort of new AI first tools is going to look good, but it's not going to have the depth. And it's going to take time to get the depth. And they will get there, but just be careful you're not buying something all new that doesn't have that depth, okay, and what you're trying to get the benefit for. Brand reputation, when it hallucinates, it does hallucinate, all right? So make sure you're checking something and you're not going to go and have a meeting about somebody that was a professor in Kenya that has definitely got, or a politician in Kenya that definitely didn't know anything about politicians in Kenya. Probably you do, Vanessa, but you know, it's going to be a really random conversation with your client there. And the biggest one that I'm seeing right now coming forward, and this could be you or it could also be your staff, right? But let's encourage them still to think, because if you plug all of this in, you know, we're already starting to see it. Oh, Claude told me it's right. Really? You thought that was right? Yeah, cross-referenced it with ChatGPT as well, right? Come on, right? We can do better than that. So all the context, I think I was invited into Deloitte's strategy for AI, where the industry's going with a couple of weeks ago. And you know, we turned around in there and we came out with the fact that, you know, our generation, we're just going to get harvest for our minds. And I thought, God, is that how it's going to end for me? I'm going to get stuck in there to get harvest for my thoughts, and then the AI, I'm going to teach the AI what to do. But kind of, that's what's happening just now, in that we've got to take our old school brain, okay, and make sure that these youngsters understand why they're doing something, and not just there's the answer. So, finishing up, and thank you for your attention and time. I'll say sorry to team for going on 4 minutes later than I should have. Yes, embrace Simon's side of the bus, but do it with what you're trying to then achieve in terms of the AI productivity. It is there for the taking, but let's take our John approach from our old principles with building relationships, making sure you get the credibility, and all with trust. Trust is your new currency. And what you're selling is how your value in your business is then delivered to your client. Thank you all very much. I hope that's been helpful, and I'm around for the rest of the conference. But enjoy, and thank you very much.